Okay, well, that was just a quick little introduction to this project that I'm working on. And it's based off of fractured art, something that I've just started to play with. So a lot of this is experimentation, which is one of the key things in creating art. I assigned my basic design students a final project called Fractured, dealing with the current pandemic of COVID-19 and their personal relationship with it. So through journaling and sketching and research and looking at other art and just lots of self-reflection, they have to come up with a piece that talks about it one way or the other. And dealing with fractured art, which stems from Cubism, it's a fun way to talk about how this whole thing has, well, fractured us in one way or another. Nothing is the same anymore. Our lives are very different. So it feels like pieces of a whole trying to come together. So that's where collage comes in for me. They're not all doing collage. They're either doing traditional Cubism, fractured art, where they have images that are more broken up, or collage, which is kind of the same principle. I'm working with kind of a grid-like pattern to mine, and I started with just a simple charcoal drawing underneath. This is my nephew. Using a pick-out method where I laid charcoal down with a charcoal stick and charcoal dust, and then used the pick-out method with erasers and then drew back into it a little bit. So it's a very loose way of working. And then on top of that, I went into using saran wrap, which is a technique I learned a long time ago to break up a surface and loosen it up really fast. So you just apply the paint right onto the saran wrap, and the wrinkles in it create a really cool, fun texture. And it's a nice base layer. I lost most of it, but you can see some of it peeking through in little areas. I could definitely go back and do it again. It creates kind of a print look to it. And then on top of that, you can do it with multiple colors, and it can create some really beautiful effects. And then I just took my brush and I just wiped it out, kind of brushed through to break up some of the edges on his face and to start creating this glitch kind of pattern. And glitch art is reminiscent of like when your computer is, or your TV starts losing signal and it glitches and you see like the matrix in it. And there's a lot of symbolism in this too, dealing with things like that. And I am working with complementary color, split complements actually, with orange and blue-green and blue with acrylic paint. And I use acrylic paint because it's easy to just build up layers. It dries really fast. If I were to work with oils, it would just take way too long. So this is a lot faster. And I can use a blow dryer on it if I want it to dry even quicker. And just, it's a layering process. And then on top of that, I've gone through newspapers and picked out different phrases that relate to his story, me, and current events. And that's where I'm collaging and kind of figuring out where I want them first before I actually glue them down. So I did that, and I used matte medium, which is very, very liquidy. And it starts out white, but it dries really clear. So you can use this to adhere big pieces of digital art down or just small little pieces. If you were doing a big piece, you would brush on or roll on with a foam roller a whole layer on your surface. I'm working on illustration board. And then you would lay it down. You would make sure all the bubbles were out by using just a credit card or something like that to squeegee out any bubbles or wrinkles. And then you would do an additional layer of the matte medium on top. So you can see it's very white. And then you just lay it down, but as it dries really clear. When I'm putting these pieces of paper down for collage, one thing I'm doing is hard to handle and then put it on the paper. So I figure out where it's gonna go. I lay down the matte medium and then I put it down, and like, I'm just gonna do this one right here. Rip it. It's called one. I like the word one. So I'm going to lay this down. We'll go flat. Place it where I want it, and then do another coat over it. And it will dry super clear. So all the different phrases and stuff, you know, they have meaning to me, and they have meaning as far as what we're going through, and some very specific to him. But there's, you know, art is universal. So the more personal you get, the more universal it becomes, because everybody goes through the same thing at different points in their lives. So it's great therapy. It's a great way to tell your story, and it allows other people to really engage, not just with you as an artist, but how does it connect to them in some way. So there's always a message. So art is always, what do you I teach my students, what do you want to say to your viewer? What message do you want to put out? What are you trying to say in your work? And a lot goes into that. It's line technique. It's how patterns come together, how shape comes together, and color. What colors do you use? What color families? They all have a different mood to them. This is a very kind of somber mood with some bright color for upliftment. The reason I chose this particular subject matter of my nephew is we lost him very suddenly during this whole thing. And he was 32 years old, just too young, and it was too quick. And this is therapy for me. So, and I'm sharing that with you. It's been very difficult going into this project, and there's a lot of anxiety involved in that. And I think my mark making kind of talks about that a little bit. And some of these words, some of the phrases, they connect me to him. I'm not done. I'm going to still use a little bit more. One thing I did, he was a very spiritual person, so very open-minded. And one phrase that stuck out was this one. It says, "Why do you stay when the door is wide open?" And I actually wrote this down on a piece of tracing paper because I wanted to see what it would do when I laid it down with the matte medium. And what happened is it dries really clear. You want to make sure your ink is dry before you do it, because I blurred it a little bit when I did it, but it dries clear, so the colors from behind come through. So I can't even see the edges of it, which is kind of a neat technique. And I could go in and I could continue to paint and add to it. I'm not sure I will, but I'm going to add a few more things to it. I'm not sure what, but this is where I'm at so far. So that's my work in progress.